are here, man. The aliens are here, man. The reptilians are here, man. The Illuminati's listening. Hitler never died. The Holocaust a lie. 6 million Jews. Show me the proof.
Read it early for entertainment, and then read it again in August right before you go back. Complete the mind mapping activity, and you will be prepared for your first week of English 1. All right. Who wants to hear that story? Okay, a class is going to be really upset with me because I could not tell them. I've told one class. I couldn't tell a class yesterday because of a potential problem that I've been dealing with. No names. I don't want to elaborate too much, but I was pretty sure I'd get a phone call from a parent. So I refrained from telling the story to that class, and that's the only reason I didn't, or I would have told them the story. I'm assuming that's not going to happen here. I don't think I've had one negative communication with parents in this class. Folks, you don't have to believe my story if you don't want to, but I have nothing to gain by telling you this story, I'll tell you that. I have nothing to gain. It was a really freaky incident, what I'm about to tell you, and everything I'm telling you is truth and guaranteed to be true. I'm not making anything up, and I'm recalling it to the best of my recollection. The event I'm going to tell you about happened in 1977. Think about that. 1977, it was early November 1977, 40 years ago this happened. A lot of things have changed in 40 years. Now they have drones, okay. There's drones everywhere. Drones were not around whenever I saw what I saw. And I've seen a lot in my lifetime. You know, I'm 61. A few things I remember recalling growing up was I was about 5 years old. My dad and my little brothers, and I had a sister at that time, we were in the car going to the cotton gin outside of Alice, Texas, on Highway 44 going to San Diego. And there was this car wreck that happened just right there. We were going this way, and we saw a car crash a cattle trailer. Went underneath. It looked really bad. We were the first on the scene. My dad said, okay, y'all wait here. I'm going to go see if anyone needs help. Well, I got out of the car anyway and went across the street. Probably shouldn't have, but what I saw at that point was a decapitated person. The car was crashed. The back of the trailer took this guy's head off, basically. I mean, it was pretty scary at the age of 5, and I'll never forget that sight. I remember seeing my 13-year-old sister in a casket dead. At the funeral, it was open casket. I remember my parents pointed out, see those pink spots? They were by blood vessels. Those popped. Her blood pressure got so high that when she died, her blood vessels just popped. And that's really high blood pressure, folks. It's one of the highest ever recorded. It broke the machine. I remember that. It was really sad. I remember being there when my son was born in the hospital. It was a C-section, but I was there. Pretty amazing stuff. What I'm about to tell you has more of an impact on me than any of those things. I think about this at least once every day or so. I think about it. What I saw that day. And it's a good thing. It's not anything like I'm freaked out. You know, I don't think the devil's out to get me or anything like that. I think it's cool. I was at the right place at the right time. And one day, one of you in this room will probably see something like what I saw. In November 1977, between Dallas and Denton, Texas. Who knows where North Texas State University is? North Texas State University used to be an all-women's school. Now it's co-ed. It's in Denton, Texas, north of Dallas. I guess you would say it's in the Panhandle. Well, I was on the St. Mary's University debate team. We were the debate team, my partner and I, cross-examination debate. We were the debate team, the only team there. And usually our coach traveled with us. Our coach would travel with us, and we only went intrastate. We didn't have the money to go fly everywhere. We hung out in Texas and participated in Texas. I remember my partner and I won our first meet at Southwest Texas State University. We won first place. That was cool. This particular meet didn't go that well, and we probably lost as many rounds as we won. But this is when this event happened. So it just so happens that our debate coach couldn't travel with us this day. The debate coach says, guys, I'm sorry, but I had a family member die, and I'm going to have to go to the funeral. You guys go ahead and go and debate, and don't worry about the expenses. I'll get that money back to you. So I had a Monte Carlo. My dad bought me a brand new 1975 Monte Carlo when I was a sophomore in high school, or maybe I was a junior. That's what I was driving. So I drive all the way up San Antonio. My debate partner, Lonnie Andrews, he's from Laredo, Texas. He was on my right-hand side. What do they call it? Yeah. He was on the passenger front driver, shotgun. A lot of people call it. I'm a shotgun. So we drove up there. Everything was fine. It took, several hours to get there from San Antonio. Texas is a big state. We got there. We did our thing. Saturday we debated. Sunday we had one match. On Sunday, we lost that match and we were free to go. We probably left it about noonish. And y'all know what a contrail is? In reference to a jet plane, do you know what a contrail is? Yes. That's that.
It's a long stream of light.
That's right. It's a long stream of vapor that follows a jet plane. When you hear a jet, you look up in the sky, you'll see the contrails. They're vapor. Some of them have double vapors or twin engines. Well, I'm driving home. By the way, it's a clear day, though. Not a cloud in the sky. It's a gorgeous fall day, crystal clear, and I'm driving, and I'm very observant. Even back then, I was very observant. Being a farm hand and working on farm equipment, you have to be very careful. But even on the highway, I'm always looking around. There's a car coming. I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do if it veers in my direction? I'm always thinking ahead. I was driving, kind of looking. Something caught my eye. I said, Lonnie, check out those irregular contrails in the air. And they were off a pretty good distance, but it was a crystal clear sky and I could see everything. Check out those contrails. Lonnie looks up there and says, hey, Larry, pull over. There's something up there. So I was on Highway 281. I pulled off on the shoulder. There wasn't a whole lot of traffic there. This was back in the 70s. We got out of the car and we started pointing, and I could see 7 objects. I counted them. Probably in airspace, I would estimate they were 30 miles away. You can't see from here to the other side of that building on the ground, but in airspace you can see a very long way. I remember being in Rome, and we were on top of a hill at a mansion touring it, and we could see the city of Rome 30 miles away. And that's how far these spacecraft were from the ground. They were about 30 miles in the air. They were all kind of hovered together. And I said, Lonnie, those look like some kind of extraterrestrial spacecraft. I said, from that distance, 30 miles, I said, they look like flying saucers. I never believed in those. Never believed in flying saucers. I'd heard a bunch of stories about people being abducted by flying saucers. I've done a lot of research since this sighting, and I believe it. But I didn't believe it then. But as we were pointing, checking them out, one of those spacecraft broke from the pack, and there were at least 7 of them. It broke from the pack, folks, and this spacecraft came to where we were standing. We just literally freaked out. We were like stupefied and horrified all at the same time. We were in awe. This spacecraft, and it wasn't a drone. Drones didn't even exist back then. And this thing was as big as a Earth spacecraft. Probably this is how big it was, but this thing hovered there for at least 4 minutes. Could have been longer. We were really shocked. I could have thrown a rock at it and hit it. I'm glad I didn't. I probably wouldn't be here right now. This spacecraft, folks, was huge. We broke down this wall and that wall. 2 classrooms here, Navarro's classroom, break down his wall. That spacecraft could have landed here. Okay, that's about how big it was, the circumference. It was huge, just like, I don't know how many feet that would be, but it was as wide as a lot of airplanes. But it was circular, disc-shaped. What we saw, and I remember this very vividly, I'll never forget it. Y'all know what stainless steel looks like?
Yes.
Very shiny and bright. It was a perfect picture, clear day, but this was shinier than stainless steel. This spacecraft was shinier than stainless steel. It was as bright as could be, but it was a plate on top of a plate, folks, just like you see on UFO movies and all these things. There were no windows. It was pretty flat, but it was wide in a perfect circle, and it had lights in the middle. different color. There were even fluorescent lights, blue, green, red lights. Kind of freaked us out. Lonnie says, "Larry, I think that's a flying saucer." And I said, "Yeah, I know it is." I said, "I sure hope they don't drop a ladder." We were just talking to each other as we were fascinated by this object. We were kind of freaked out that they might drop a ladder or something. If they dropped a ladder, we knew that we were going to be abducted or something. We didn't want to really talk to an alien. But we watched this, and the lights kept twinkling in the center, right where the two plates met. And it was just a fantastic sight. Didn't make a sound. There wasn't a bit of noise. You could hear a pin drop. No noise coming from this spacecraft. By the way, we weren't on drugs, and I wasn't drinking alcohol. I was clean. I had to drive hundreds of miles home. I can't be under the influence. So no, we didn't take acid. No, we didn't smoke marijuana. And no, we weren't under the influence of alcohol. So we were clear and clean. We watched this spacecraft, and we kept kind of talking to each other, freaked out. I said, "Well, Lonnie, I sure hope that thing doesn't get us." We were really freaked out at that time. The reason I know the spacecraft wasn't from Earth, number one, it had made no sound. If you've ever been by a helicopter or on a plane, you know how loud they are. Huge engines. This thing didn't make any noise. It was just there. When it decided to leave, folks, after watching it for about 4 minutes, it didn't just disappear and blow away. It went from it would hover, just sitting there with no sound. I looked for windows. I wanted to see, I knew there was an alien in it, because these couldn't have been controlled by Earthlings. I never saw a window, I never saw an alien in the spacecraft. But when this spacecraft decided to go back to the others, it went, whew. You could see it. It must have hit. I've been on jet airplanes, 1,000 miles an hour, usually they go 500. It must have reached speeds of 2,000 miles an hour within a matter of seconds. From a dead hovering position, it was in full speed in a matter of seconds. And it met up with those other spacecraft. Really freaked me out. So I got on the CB radio. Those were popular back in the 70s. I said, "Breaker 19. Did anyone see that flying saucer out here off Highway 281? Somebody came on, "Breaker 19, what you guys smoking over there?" They thought we were smoking weed. They really did. I said, no, the flying saucer that we saw. And someone else came on, "Hey, Breaker 19, we did see something strange in the sky over there." So it was verified. Someone else had seen it from a further distance than we were. We were right there, folks. It was probably 100 feet in the air. 100 feet is 33 yards in the air. I could have thrown a rock at it and hit it. The most unusual sighting that I've ever made in my life. So we're all freaked out. It leaves. I was on the CB radio. One person verified they had seen something strange in the sky. And I'm driving home. We were talking about what we just saw. And Lonnie says, "Larry, let's not tell anyone. Let's keep it a secret." I don't want the attention. I said, "Yeah, I agree. I don't want the attention. People think we're crazy or something." No, I drive. We get to school a few hours later. We do our thing. Next day in psychology class, Dr. I don't remember his name. Guess what my debate partner and I saw on the way back? I said, "We saw a flying saucer," and I told the whole class. I said, "My debate partner Lonnie and I saw a flying saucer on the way back from Denton, Texas." He said, Really? Did you really?" He was an ex-colonel in the Air Force, retired, and he was a psychiatrist. He had a doctor's degree in psychology. He says, "Mr. Pawlik, do you mind meeting me in my office after class so we can talk about what you saw?" I said, "Sure, I'll be happy to share with you what I saw." I was kind of ignorant of the deal. I went into his office. He says, "Well, Mr. Pawlik, I'm a retired colonel in the Air Force, and I just want you to know what you probably saw." He said, "You probably saw an air balloon, a weather balloon." I said, "No, sir, I've seen weather balloons. I've seen one crash on a 4,000-acre farm when I was a kid." I said, "This was no weather balloon. This was a bona fide flying saucer." He said, "Well, do you mind if I give you a lie detector test and give you a psychological battery test?" I said, "No, you can give me anything you want." Didn't know what he was doing, but he plugged me up with these wires. He had wires on me. It measures your blood pressure. He asked me a bunch of questions. "You attend St. Mary's University?" All you can say is yes or no. It registered your blood pressure. Do you attend St. Mary's University? Yes. Are you on the debate team at St. Mary's University? Yes. Have you ever tried marijuana? No. Do you drink alcohol? No, I didn't at the time. And he asked me all these questions, and he says, well, you did pass the test, I'll tell you that. But let me tell you what you really saw. You saw a weather balloon. So he's trying to cover up this sighting of a flying saucer. The U.S. government has covered up sightings of flying saucers and aliens for hundreds of years, class. They're covering it up. They don't want the public to freak out. And I've read a 500-page book, cover to cover, the UFO cover-up, page to page. I've read it 3 times, and I'm a true believer. There are Air Force pilots that worked in Vietnam and World War II, and they're talking. They've got out of the closet. I couldn't say this when I was in the service, but I recall doing my sorties and seeing flying saucers on my wingspan, and there's nothing we could do to outmaneuver them. So there's even Air Force pilots that have seen this stuff, but the government's covered it up. You'll know that eventually. Long story short, aliens do exist. Flying saucers are real. I truly believe it. It's the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'll never forget it. I think about it at least once every day, y'all. I'm not crazy or nothing, but it made a major impact on my life. And this is why I'm sharing the story with you. Have an open mind. Don't think that Earth is the only planet in the hemisphere and in the universe where there's life. There is life elsewhere. We're just now discovering planets. And they're saying life may be on these planets. The alien planet with a question mark. They're out there. They're not here to harm us. Or we would have been harmed a long time ago. There's been millions of sightings of these things, but you're hearing a sighting from someone that you trust and respect. And I wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't true. I have nothing to gain by it. By the way, Roswell, New Mexico, there was a flying saucer and aliens, and they may still be there. The rancher whose ranch this aircraft landed at, crashed at, came on the news. It was NBC or ABC News. And this old man, rancher, about 85 or 86, he says, I'm here telling the story about the flying saucer that crashed on my ranch. The day it crashed back in the 40s or 50s, I was told by the U.S. Army that if I told anyone, they would kill me and my family. That's what he said. He said the U.S. The services, the U.S. Army threatened to kill him and his family if he told anybody about what they saw. He had some pictures, and I believe they were not a hoax. The UFO, just like what I saw, was embedded into the ground halfway. It must have crashed from a long way. It was embedded in the ground, and there were 2 dead aliens. He had the pictures he was showing us. Believe it, live it, love it. Y'all have a great day.
Hey, wow, you watched the whole thing. Wow. You must really like our Lord and Savior, Mr. Pawlik. And that creamed corn, you know? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That creamed corn. Yeah, that's what I like. Well, if you want to give me a subscription, I do some really, really weird shit, okay? Well, have a great day. And make it matter. Ugh!